What's going on, everybody? Good late evening. Here I am making a video much later than usual because I wanted to make sure things were done for the day and the Seahawks wouldn't have any more action of any kind before I made the wrap-up video. But it looks like things are done. It looks like things are cool now. The Seahawks have made a couple of moves. They've had a series of moves happen to them. And we now have a better idea of where they sit going into 2024. So I want to talk about the day a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about the way in which the day is being perceived by a lot of people. Because I got to be honest, this one surprised me. Not the day that the Seahawks had so much. That doesn't surprise me, but the reaction from the fans has really surprised me on this one. Because I saw it on X, I saw it on Facebook, I saw it in the comment section of videos. I saw it in the stream chat on my stream during the day. I saw it pretty much everywhere. People were freaking out. People were not happy. And I've seen Seahawks fans get unhappy during free agency before. And those times it was relatively clear why there was some unhappiness. It was obvious why people were impatient. It was obvious why people weren't giving the benefit of the doubt. But this year, I gotta admit, I was surprised at how negative the reaction was during the day. Because I was sitting there throughout day one of legal tampering, and there were a lot of things happening that had nothing to do with the Seahawks. A lot of players that the Seahawks maybe could have shown interest in got signed by other teams. We watched Colby Parkinson get signed. We watched Will Dissly get signed. We watched Jordan Brooks get signed. And then Noah Fant got brought back, and then the stream ended. But I'm still seeing reactions around. Leonard Williams got brought back, and then Damian Lewis goes. And I'm seeing a lot of people who are acting really surprised and really, really hurt and really, really upset about this. And I got to be honest, I don't understand why any of this is causing people angst. I don't understand why this new coaching staff, here's the thing. We have a brand new coaching staff with one exception. Carl Scott's the only carryover. Whole coaching staff is new. Front office is still the old front office. I understand that. But whole new coaching staff, you bring them in, a lot of them with very little or no relevant experience at their current positions. And you see a team play passively and let a lot of things from the old regime go, and this is surprising and upsetting for some reason. I've been through many free agency periods as a fan of the Seattle Seahawks over the years, and fans get upset during these periods all the time. That first week of free agency where a ton of stuff happens, and the Seahawks are often not doing very much, and people get upset, they get antsy, they start wondering why the Seahawks aren't doing anything. And that made sense to me because we had a long-standing coaching staff in place. Pete Carroll had been there for a decade and a half. We had assistants that it depended on the year, obviously, but some years we had assistants that had been in place for many years. Sometimes they were new, but either way, it was the same head coach every year for almost a decade and a half. And it made sense why we just wanted him to go for it. It was time to go, right? You won a Super Bowl in year 4, and then we were just kind of dangling around there the year after the Super Bowl loss. And it was like, oh, it's Pete Carroll's 8th year. It's Pete Carroll's 9th year. It's Pete Carroll's 10th year. When's he going to go for his next Super Bowl? When's he going to gun it in free agency? When is he going to go for the big splash? When is he going to go for the long-term deals that he can spread the cap hit out effectively? And it never happened. And it got us really impatient because we're like, how long do we have to sit in this holding pattern? Some years, I totally understand. Of course, we weren't going to spend a ton of money in 2018 because 2017, we had to get rid of Cam Chancellor, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, Richard Sherman. We didn't have money. So, of course, you weren't going to go for it there. But there were years where the Seahawks could have done a lot of big stuff in free agency, and they chose not to. And that was frustrating, and I totally got why. Those teams should have gone for it. But you know what? This team, which has a brand new head coach, brand new offensive coordinator, brand new defensive coordinator, brand new offensive line coach, And all those guys have never held that position in the NFL before. All those guys have never been in that role in the NFL at all before this season. And that goes for several of the positional coaches as well, by the way. That team should not be going for it. That team should not be looking to blow their load and overspend by 30 to 35 to 40% on the guys who go on the first day. Because just think about this common sense. It's the first day of free agency. The guys who get signed on the first day are mostly going to be guys that were highly coveted. And when you're highly coveted, guess what happens? You get to ask for more money than you normally could. You get overpaid. You get paid more money than you're going to be able to live up to in terms of production. So the guys who get signed today are the guys who are going to get paid. Some of them are going to be great, but most of them are going to get paid more than they can deliver on because they're so coveted by one or multiple teams. There are times when you need to get involved in that. If you have a really bad team with a ton of cap space and you just need to do something, yeah, you overpay by 30 to 40% because that's what it takes to bring in top players. That's what it takes to turn it around. And if you're a team that is on the verge of making a Super Bowl run, you do that because, hey, if we win the Super Bowl or even get close, I'll overpay. I'll pay a guy more than he's worth if he's going to help me get to the Super Bowl anyway. Like, if I give Christian Wilkins $28 million and he ends up being worth $22 million, but I ride Christian Wilkins to a Super Bowl, what do I care? I won the Super Bowl. Yeah, in those situations, you might participate in day one because that's what you got to do. You got to compete with the top bidders because otherwise you're just going to be left sitting there with nothing. But when you're in this situation, you don't. You don't splash around at the very, very deep end of the pool. You play it chill. You play it cool. You remember that there are weeks and weeks and months of free agency after today with players that have less leverage, with players that are wondering if they're even going to have a job this year eventually, with players wondering if there's any money left for them, with players who might be willing to take smaller deals, shorter term deals, minimum deals, vetmin plus deals. All these things that happen to these veteran players as you get closer to the draft and they realize somebody younger and hungrier is going to come and take their spot unless they can reserve a chair now. So if there was ever a team that needed to play things like that, it's probably this team, right? A team that is pretty good, a team that has a pretty good roster, that has a lot of exciting things, but is clearly not this close to a Super Bowl or this close to an NFC title game. They can't even really compete in their own division with the top team in the division. And they're also not at the bottom to where they need to go do something crazy just to get people's attention. No, they're in that position of trying to figure out if this can work. Can this core work on a functional level? Can this coaching staff coach on a functional level? So, not spending big on day one is almost certainly a good thing for this team. They could have done it if they really wanted to, and I understand that some people might have gotten really excited because we cleared all that cap space. Guys, we probably cleared that cap space so we could fill the roster out later with lower leverage moves, with moves that are going to actually be cost effective, cost efficient. And also consider the fact that these coaches don't like the players as much as the previous regime that helped bring them in. A lot of people were really upset that we lost Colby Parkinson, even though he clearly got overpaid. I don't think there's a person on the planet who thinks that Colby Parkinson, based on his production over his first 4 years, should have gotten $22.5 million over 3 years. A lot of people were upset we lost Will Dissly, and that one I understand a little bit more, but it's still a 3-year deal. It's still a significant commitment to a guy who I think his body's starting to break down. Debatable, but seems to me. People were upset we lost Jordan Brooks, even though I've gotten countless comments over the years. I swear it's the same people who talk about how much they don't like Jordan Brooks and how he sucks in coverage and how he gets beat and how he's not a good tackler. And then we lose him, admittedly, for a price cheaper than I expected. And I just see people talking about these players that are not our best players, not the players that are most core to the success we've had over the last couple years. And I think people just kind of get worked up about it. They get anxious about it. They're scared because now they don't know what we're going to have next year. That fear of the unknown gets really scary. But is it a surprise that the new coaching staff is looking at some of these flawed pieces from the previous regime and they go, we don't want that. We don't want to offer that a new contract. And if they have a contract that it's easy to get out of, we want to get out of it. I mean, if you wanted Pete Carroll out of here, then to a certain extent, I don't think you can be surprised when the new guy doesn't like the roster as much as Pete Carroll did. That might go for some of the stuff that is still here. Our new coaches might not like DK Metcalf as much as Pete Carroll did, but they're stuck with him, so they're going to ride with it, see what happens. Maybe they don't like Tyler Lockett as much as the previous regime did, but they're going to ride with it because they can't get out of the contract easily right now, so they're just going to make it work. It's possible. But flawed pieces, guys who are clearly less than DK Metcalf, of course they're going to walk, I think. I'm surprised about Brooks, admittedly, because he went for such a cheap rate. But I don't think it's a surprise that Mike McDonald and crew shows up, looks at the roster, and they're like, okay, what can we get rid of? I want my roster. That's usually how this stuff works. You carry a few things over, and you clean out everything that can be cleaned out otherwise. Look at the Seahawks when they went from Jim Mora to Pete Carroll. Almost everything got cleaned out. Within 2 years, there might have been like 2 or 3 players left. Because that's what Pete Carroll looked at. He saw players that may have been good, but they weren't what he wanted. So I don't think anything today should be viewed as surprising. And honestly, I don't think it should be viewed as upsetting either. This is not a team that needs to be going all in right now. This is a team that should be playing things carefully and cautiously for the moment. And if you want further reason to support that, then consider what I have on screen here from Field Goals. After today's action, after the action that we saw earlier today, the Seahawks have now gained 3 compensatory picks in 2025. It's 2025, by the way, so next year. They got what I estimate would be a 4th-round pick for Damian Lewis, 5th-round pick for Jordan Brooks, 6th-round pick for Colby Parkinson. They don't get one for Disley, but they could still get one for Bobby Wagner when he signs. So you are probably looking at 4 day 3 picks that have manifested from the sky from these free agents that you have let go instead of re-signing in the case of Lewis and Parkinson at a clearly overpriced cost. So think about it from that angle as well. Sitting chill right now, being passive, letting these guys go and not rushing to replace them is allowing you to gain picks in future drafts. Meaningful picks. A 4th-round pick is meaningful. A 5th-round pick is meaningful. You can argue the 6th-round picks and the 7th-round picks aren't, but the 4ths and the 5ths, those mean something, absolutely. Now, I imagine at some point during the next couple of weeks, we will lose one of those picks. We're going to go after one quality interior offensive lineman, maybe a center, or we're going to go after one quality veteran linebacker, but maybe not even that. And even if we do, we're still going to be up. We're still going to be in a good situation because we were chill when it made sense to be chill. So the Seahawks are chill. You should be chill too, I believe. And I just wanted to run that down because I saw people freaking out today and I didn't get it. I understood why people freaked out in previous years. Those should have been years where you took a plunge. This team isn't taking the plunge just like those teams didn't. There's a reason why they're not taking the plunge. It doesn't make a lot of sense right now. I do think you will see some signings of consequence. I do think that you will see some of the signings of the likes of which I spoke about in my Path video. Like you might see us go get George Fant cheap. You might see us go get Calais Campbell cheap. Maybe one of these veteran safeties we go get cheap. But we're going to play it chill. Real quick here, I also want to update the depth chart hierarchy of needs. We're going to bump edge rusher down here so we have room for tight end, which I now think is a low need because of Noah Fant and the fact that we're probably not going to be using a lot of 3 tight end stuff. Defensive line now becomes a low need because of Leonard Williams. And, yeah, things have gotten a little bit cleaner around here, and I am here for it. See you guys later. Go Hawks.